there in Atlanta, the young pitching class there in Atlanta, with a Soroka, a Fried, a Bumgarner. Also, Atlanta's got to be looking at a bullpen arm. I mean, I'm looking at their bullpen this morning. Of course, they've put in as their closer in the last few weeks. They've gone with Jackson. Luke Jackson has done really well. And I talk about the last 6 games for Urias. Let's talk about the last 6 games for Luke Jackson leading to the All-Star break. In those last 6 games, going back to June 25th, he threw 6 games, 6 innings, no runs, struck out 7. He did walk 3, but no earned runs. His ERA's down to 2.66. He struck out 59. His whip's a little high, 1.27, but he has 14 saves. What I'm getting at is Luke Jackson has established himself here in recent games, but he could really help the team in a setup role. And then, of course, they've got Swarzak coming off of the IL. So they could really have Swarzak's pitched great for the Braves before going on the IL. He's got 4 saves to boot, a 2.61 ERA on the season between Atlanta and Seattle. So you put those 2 guys setting up, and now the Braves can go get a closer. And the aforementioned players, I won't go over those names again, and there are more. Lenny mentioned this morning, and I know Lenny all year has talked about the Reds, and he picked them as his so-called dark horse to win the National League Central. And, hey, it could happen. But if Reds go into sale mode, Iglesias, Atlanta, sounds like a decent match to me. How about Matt Boyd? Matt Boyd is going to be traded. It's a matter of to whom and when. And there are a lot of suitors interested in Boyd. Now, the thing with Boyd, I've looked at the wish list of the Tigers, and suffice it to say, the wish list is towards the rich end, right? Like, for example, Houston's expressed interest in Boyd. And so, in doing that, Detroit has said, well, we want Kyle Tucker. Houston has said we don't want to trade Kyle Tucker. And we're going to talk about Kyle Tucker in a few minutes a little more in depth. But of late, Kyle Tucker has not been performing. I've talked about earlier this week, why don't the Astros call him up? And I personally think, because I've seen him play in person, he's got a hitch in his swing, and the Astros don't want that exposed at the major league level. So what do I think they're doing? I think they're playing a little game of, hide and seek. They may wind up making that trade. Boyd, 142 strikeouts on the season. And he had 13 strikeouts on July 4th. He had 11 strikeouts on July 26th. And there's just something about these guys who go to Houston, we've talked about over and over, and they don't get worse, they get better. I really could see this happening. I could see the Astros loading up, going for Bumgarner, going for Boyd, and just trying to blow away the rest of the American League. And we know the trade deadline is now 20 days away. And I'm sure there'll be some flurry on the last day. But here's the thing. Why aren't teams moving now? Why aren't they making the trades now? Because you're going to have an Astro or a Yankee or a Brave who they're not going to be talking about it. It's just going to happen like a thief in the night. And you're going to have a player swooped up and gone while you're negotiating with the team for somebody else. Matt Boyd will be a big guy. I tell you 2 guys I'm not big on. I'm not. Give me some chat room on this. I'm not big on Marcus Stroman. Toronto wants to trade him. I don't blame them. I think to this point in the year, Marcus Stroman has had what I would classify as performing above the bar. I just don't see Stroman repeating what he has done in the second half. Okay, so what has he done in the first half? 81 strikeouts. He's not a strikeout pitcher. A 3.18 ERA and a 1.26 whip. He had a pectoral cramp in his left non-throwing shoulder in his last start. He skipped his next start before the All-Star break. Thinks he'll return. Probably will. But again, if you are an owner of Stroman in fantasy, and Lenny talked about this morning marketing some players. He mentioned Chavez for the Red Sox. I think you should market Stroman. And then there's Mike Minor. What a great season so far Minor has had in Texas. But he's where? He's in Texas. And they're not going to trade Minor. He's 8-4, a 2.54 ERA, a 1.13 whip, 114 strikeouts. He's scheduled to pitch this Saturday at home against the Astros. Jim Ross says Stroman to Cleveland. I mean, okay, let's say they do that. What will Cleveland be giving Toronto? And here's the thing, Jim, and just answer me. The Indians, when I'm reading, they're talking about trading a pitcher. So then why would they be trading for a pitcher? Unless it's like a three-team deal, which could happen. And if you've read something, let me know. I haven't seen anything about Stroman to Cleveland. Maybe that's just wishful thinking on Jim Ross's part. But, certainly anything can happen. But I'm looking at Minor for Texas. I'm talking about fantasy owners now, okay? And I'm looking at walks. And I'm going through his last 6 starts. Against Boston on June 5th, 5 2/3 innings, 2 walks. Excuse me, that's Baltimore at home. On June 10th at Boston, 2 walks. June 15th at Cincinnati, 4 walks. June 20th, Cleveland, 3 walks. July 2nd, the Angels, 4 walks. And the most strikeouts he has had in any one game over his last 6 is 7 strikeouts. So, I'm iffy on Minor for the second half. I'm iffy on Stroman for the second half. If you're a fantasy owner of a Mike Minor or a Marcus Stroman or a Michael Chavez, it's time to package them. See what you can trade in the league. Put them out there for the whole league. See if you can get any offers. And there may be others. Now, Lance Lynn is pitching today. We got a game today. Houston and Texas in Arlington. The only show in town. Lance Lynn enters the second half 11-4. 3.91 ERA, 1.22 whip. I call it a mirage, folks. For a few reasons. First of all, he's Lance Lynn. I mean, I've seen this before. I've read this book a few times. Lance Lynn, who starts the year off pretty well and finishes it off not well at all. Second, Lance Lynn primarily throws a fastball. Third, Lance Lynn, who primarily throws a fastball, pitches in Arlington, Texas, where fastballs fly out of the ballpark. If you are a Lance Lynn owner, fantasy owners, trade him. Trade him. Yes, I said trade him and trade him now. And these are some more players for fantasy purposes. I think it's time to trade. Now, Lenny, I heard you this morning talk about your boy Ian Happ. Lenny, I'm the same way. You got Ian Happ and different ones. I love Austin Riley. Some people love Paul DeYoung. That's what's great about baseball, right? We pick these underachievers or potential in players, and we hope to see it develop. And so I was looking up Ian Happ during Lenny's show. I hadn't even planned on doing this. So, you do things on the fly sometimes, right? Ian Happ at AAA Iowa. 312 at-bats. 100 strikeouts. A 234 average. And so you kind of sit back on your seat and go, I don't know about that. But here you go. Prior to the AAA All-Star game, beginning July 3rd, Happ went 2 for 3. July 4th, 1 for 5. July 5th, 2 for 3 with 2 round trippers. July 6th, 2 for 3. July 7th, 2 for 5. You're catching on. Ian Happ's heating up. Legend didn't give you all the information, but he knew it. He knows all this stuff. I know he does. I found it out. He's 9 for his last 19. That's a 474 average. Some 240 points higher than his season average. Is it coincidental that it's getting warm? No. And timing-wise, the Cubs are talking about trading players if things don't turn around soon. And if they do, that's a big if, but if they do, or if they just decide we need an infusion from within, couldn't you just see, as Lenny said, an Ian Happ coming up and being a instrumental part if the Cubs have success the rest of the way in that division? So, I may have some more. I'm looking in the chat room. If you guys have questions, come on, throw them at me. Give me a call, 919-922-9093. I will talk live on the air. I'm ready. If you are, I'm ready. I know you guys a lot of times prefer the chat room, but we'll do it either way. I got some things I want to talk about prospect-wise, AAA All-Star Game-wise, how this may affect the second half. So here we go. I'm going to talk about some players first at the minor league level. Some may be obscure, some may not be, some you may have heard of, some you may not. Some of you may be looking at dynasty players for next year, and this is what it's all about. Orioles' Adam Hall, a shortstop, their 14th ranked prospect. Last night for Class A Delmarva went 2 for 5 with a run, a double, an RBI. Delmarva having a great year. The Shorebirds is what they're called. And this Adam Hall, 20-year-old shortstop, he was drafted out of Canada in 2017. He's batting .309 with 17 steals in 75 games for the Shorebirds. Okay, so he's got a great glove. He's been hitting this year. And I look for him. I watch the High A team. And I get to watch the High A team out of Frederick. In fact, they're in Carolina this week playing the Mudcats. We're going to talk about their game last night. Gio Gonzalez pitched a rehab. I want to talk about that because the Brewers are certainly looking for a pitcher, and I want to let you know how Gio did last night. I went and watched the game. Okay, I saw the game. I watched him pitch. He only pitched 2 innings. I was not impressed. But I get to watch the Orioles, I get to watch the Brewers, I get to watch these Carolina League teams, and I get to see these prospects as I can talk about them. For the Rays last night, Wander Franco. Everybody loves Wander Franco, right? I mean, have you checked out, I don't know if you guys collect baseball cards or autograph seekers. I have a fairly big collection of autograph things, mostly Yankees, but I go outside the box. Go on eBay and check out the price of verified, certified autographed items from Wander Franco. Go check it out. I'm not going to give it away. I will tell you, I went online last year. They had Bowman certified baseball, Bowman certified card, and they were like $39. So I bought one of each, and I'm glad I did. But anyway, last night, he's the number 1 prospect in all of Major League Baseball. He went 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored, a double, and a walk for Class A Advanced Charlotte. Check this out. You need to listen tight here. And if you're in Dynasty League, trade for him. Give up a player. He's that good. He's going to be up next year, guys. And, hey, the way Tampa is, I wouldn't be shocked if he were up in September this year. Wouldn't shock me. Particularly if Willy Adames had an injury. Because he plays shortstop. Here, check this out. Franco has hit safely in 8 of 9 games since being promoted to Class A Advanced Charlotte. Of course, he was 1 for 3 coming back from the futures game. Overall, he's at 430.